Welcome to a seasonal palette video. I do these every time the seasons change. I love to pull out palettes from my ginormous palette collection.
Stop it. Get some help.
To get re-inspired for the upcoming season, and spring is here. Is it here by the time you're watching this? I think so. If not, it's happening very soon, okay? So I picked out 15 palettes from my collection to show you, to give you some inspo. Maybe if you have them in your collection, you can pull them out and use them, shop your stash, or maybe give you some information about these palettes if you're interested in purchasing them. I will link all of the palettes that are available down below in the description box. Some of them are no longer available, sorry, but again, this isn't all about buying new palettes, it's maybe just rediscovering things you've already got, and let's do it. Listen, you can wear whatever makeup you want, whatever time of year, right? You don't have to use spring, quote, spring colors in spring. You can wear whatever you want. You don't need me to tell you that. But I do like to sometimes be inspired by the seasons, and these ones to me are giving me spring vibes. Now, of course, if I did get any of these palettes in PR, I will pop it up on the screen when I show you the swatches. And if I have codes with any of these brands, I will pop them up as we go. But let's start off. I have two palettes in front of me that I'll be really transparent with you. I'm still testing. I don't have my final thoughts on them. All the rest of them, I do have my final thoughts on. I can give you a little more insight into like formulas and stuff. But the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes today is the Diva Rune Cosmetics Gloomy Gardens palette. This is giving spring in a medieval manner, right? The cover, it's a little bit of a grungy spring. It's not like all soft, pretty pastels like we maybe normally would think spring is. We've got a little bit of darkness to it. On the inside, we have this gorgeous color story. We've got a mix of cool tones, a mix of warm tones, mostly colorful. I can't really create too many neutral looks with this palette. And if you've been here before, you know I love a palette. I can create neutral looks and colorful looks. But I will say my experience so far, the two times that I've used this palette, has been really nice. I did not film this look, but what I did is I put this shade all over my lid, all into my crease. I deepened it up with this kind of dark gray, and I placed this shimmer all over the lid. That's it. I used 3 shades. And as you can see, I got a really beautiful dimension with the look. Can't complain at all. I think, and you're gonna see this theme a lot with the palettes I'm showing you, a like minty green or like a soft green look, I find is very spring to me. Now is the time where I want to wear those types of looks. The shimmers in this are very beautiful. They're all duo or multi-chromes, all special shades. They have a little chunk to them, but they're not messy or anything like that. And the mattes in this palette are really easy to work with, not overly pigmented. So if you are new to makeup, or if you like that type of matte shadow, you would really enjoy this. It's like, you know, gothic spring, which I think is very different and interesting. And then the other palette that I'm still currently testing is the DD Signature Blooming Basket. I have used this only once so far, but I will say this is giving like spring in a tropical setting, right? I mean, this even would go like spring, summer. It leans a little spring summer to me. But DD Signature, I think her standout shadows are her shimmer shades. They're incredibly wet looking on the lid, incredibly shiny, so beautiful. And she does put in here a couple of different formulas of shimmer. We have 2 that are just very, very smooth, and we have 2 that have a little bit more pieciness, but I don't feel that they're chunky at all. They're very smooth to just glide over the lid. But as you can see, even in the pan, they have a little bit more of that kind of reflective particle in there. And the mattes are nice. This is definitely for a color lover, or if you want to dabble into color. I think the mattes in this are pretty good so far. They've definitely improved since her past palettes, but of course I will keep you posted. Something else I like about this is there are light tones and there are deep tones in the mattes, which I like to have a gradient of light to deep. So far I'm enjoying this, but I definitely wanted to pull this out and show it to you because it definitely does give me spring vibes. If you're more of like a neutral lover, I think this is a really pretty spring neutral palette. And if you like more light tones, you don't need a deepening up tone. This would be a really nice one. This is the Natasha Denona Mini Starlet palette. I think this is a really pretty soft pink palette that is very easy to travel with, easy to pack. I think the quality of the shadows from Natasha Denona are really good, and in this palette are really nice. We have 3 different mattes that are varying in depth, and they're really, really nice. Now, it doesn't get very deep, so again, if you're looking for like ultra depth, you may need to pull in another palette. We have two really pretty shimmers, one more of like a smooth standard metallic and one that is a little bit shinier. I think this palette is gorgeous, again, for more of a softer spring look. I can see myself wearing this like maybe on Easter or something like that. Really pretty. I love Natasha Denona minis. They're some of my favorite Natasha Denona palettes because they're so packable. You can pack like a few of them and mix and match. And this is a really pretty one that reminds me of spring. If you're looking, again, kind of more in the bright, colorful realm, Wicked Widow Beauty Tea Time palette. This one is really fun. It is sort of like an Alice in Wonderland theme. And when you open it up, we have this very colorful palette. I will say Wicked Widow Beauty shimmers are incredible, especially in this palette. I think they're so like very wet looking. They glide on the lid, but they're very shiny, very opaque. I love that we have this white shimmer here for the inner corner. Then we have 3 different shimmers that you could pop on the lid. Some of them are a little deeper than others. And again, we have more colorful mattes if that's what you're looking for. The mattes from Wicked Widow Beauty are also really pretty, really nice, easy to work with. I think their shimmers are really the standout, but I love a little palette. I think the theming is cute, and this does remind me of spring, especially with the bunny on the cover, right? I guess that's another reason it was giving me the feeling. But yeah, let me know if you picked up this palette or if you've used Wicked Widow Beauty before. If you haven't and you love shimmers, this is a good brand to try. I have 2 ColourPop palettes to talk about. These are definitely, like, for me, very springy palettes. So first we have the Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon palette. I'll be honest with you, I don't know anything about Sailor Moon. I've never seen the show, don't cancel me. It is really in my generation. Like, I do remember it being around when I was a kid, but I just didn't end up ever watching it. And then on the inside, yeah, I mean, how much more spring can we get? Soft pops of color. This palette definitely runs very mid-tone to light. So if you are looking for depth, you're gonna have to pull something in. Even this purple down here, I don't feel that it's very deep on the eyes at the end of the day. But again, if you don't like deep tones, you like light to mid-tone, or you wanna mix and match, this is fun. I will say, I think that the shimmers in this are really pretty, really ethereal, very fairy-like, just twinkly. And we do have a couple of these like glitter hybrid shades that ColourPop has been putting in their palettes now for a little bit. So if you like that little extra sparkle, you don't mind a little grittiness though, be aware of that. This is a really pretty one. And then another one, look at the cover. Like the child, he's so freaking cute. This is ColourPop and The Mandalorian collaborating with the Child palette. Once again, like I told you, these like soft pops of a cool toned green, minty green. It's very spring to me. I really enjoy all of the Star Wars collaboration palettes that ColourPop has done. I think they've done a really good job with it. I feel that the quality is very good, both in the mattes and the shimmers. And in this palette, you can definitely use this column to create a neutral look. And we have this side that's green, but it's definitely more cool tone leaning green. So if you like that, you would really enjoy this. I really like the shimmers in this. I think they're a little more stepped up than the usual ColourPop palettes. I really, again, like how we have this very light white shimmer for the inner corner. If I can have a palette with an inner corner shade, I'm happy that I don't have to reach down and find something else. Is it a big deal for me to do that? No. But sometimes I'm lazy. Really enjoy this one for the spring. If you have it, pull it out and use it. Shout out to my girl Theresa is Dead because she created an absolutely beautiful palette with Lethal Cosmetics. This is the Theresa is Lethal palette. This is my first purchase from the brand. And I mean, we've got some great little pops of color in here. The formulas on this are great. The mattes are really nice, easy to use, not overly pigmented, easy to blend. We've got light, we've got deep, we've got a mixture of mostly cool tones in here. The 2 shimmers that I love are TV Dinner and Space Trash. Both of these are just breathtaking. This silver, beautiful. And then this blue one called Space Trash is also really pretty. It's blue with pink reflect and it's very 90s. It's very 90s. I don't love blue, but you know, this blue I can get down with. I need to use this one this spring. It's been a while since I've used it. Did you pick this up? I'm pretty sure it's not available anymore because it was a collaboration palette. They tend to just discontinue them after a while, of course. So let me know if you picked this one up. Let me know if you plan to use it in the springtime because I definitely should pull it out again. Yeah, I mean, I love Theresa as well. That doesn't hurt. I love supporting people that I enjoy, so this is a good one for spring. Okay, I'm throwing some neutral palettes in here. You know that's where my heart lies. So I have to say one that I think is really nice quality that I hardly hear anybody ever talk about is the Nudie #2 palette from Laura Lee Los Angeles. I owned her Nudie Patootie, the original one, and I like this one much better in terms of quality and in terms of color story. It's very neutral leaning, but it does have soft pops of pink. We have a pop of a purple. We have a pop of a mauve. So you can make something very warm tone neutral and you can make something more pinky mauve. Very springtime to me, especially if I want to reach for neutrals. And I like the quality of this palette a lot. The mattes are easy to use, kind of middle of the road pigmentation level. And the shimmers in here, there's a variety of different formulas. We have more of your standard metallic, and we have a couple that have a little more shine to them. There's no multi-chromes. There's no special shades in here. So, you know, if you're looking for that, this probably isn't the palette for you. But listen, I love me a standard shimmer, okay? I love having standard shimmers. I love having special shades too, but this is a really pretty, just user-friendly, easy go-to palette. And I think this would be a great gift for somebody that maybe doesn't have a giant makeup collection and wears neutrals a lot. They're gonna get a lot of looks and a lot of use out of something like this, but I really enjoy this one. Okay, now we've got like a bunch of indie brands here that I just love, like my favorite brands ever. So I have two palettes from Oden's Eye that I wanted to highlight, and they're both collaboration palettes. The first one is the Flora Story palette in collaboration with Makeup Just for Fun. Look at Amanda, she's in the forest looking like a gorgeous little pixie. If that's not spring, I don't know what is. And then on the inside, we have soft muted tones of green, of purple. And once again, like I'm saying with these soft greens, very much spring to me, but of course you can create more like a purple look, which I love greens and purples. They're my two favorite colors to wear if I'm gonna wear color. So I enjoy this one a lot. And of course we still have a brown to create a neutral look as well. So really love this palette for spring, and the quality of Oden's Eye is really great. Their mattes are just really good. They are a little bit higher on the pigmentation level, but they're not hard to work with. And with Oden's Eye palettes, a lot of the times they're putting in different shimmer formulas. We have a multi-chrome up here called Dawn, which is so beautiful. We do have like a couple more standard metallics, and we have a couple more that are a little bit more textured metallics that give a lot of shine and sparkle to the eyelid. So Flora Story is a good spring palette. And then of course, I mean, I had to include the Spring Dragon palette. The word spring is in the title, so it's pretty spring. This is in collaboration with Judy. This is the collaboration palette she just did recently. She has done 2 with the brand. And we're getting into some pastel palettes here coming up. I think pastels are a type of shade that I reach for the most in the springtime. I do love having pastels all the time as companion palettes to like pop into my inner corner, to use as a blending out shade. But of course, springtime, I do think of pastels. So this is a really good, for me, more of a companion palette. I'm not gonna create full cohesive looks that I love with this palette, but I do, like I said, love having pops that I can reach into if I want to incorporate pastels into my look. Something that I really love in a pastel palette is when they're pigmented, and these are pigmented. Like they show up very well. Again, I have a light skin tone, so I can't speak for like anything deeper than me, but I would think they would because they're very pigmented. But let me know if you picked up this palette, and let me know how you feel about pastels. Do you find that you reach for pastels in spring the most? Or are you a year-round pastel person, or do you not reach for pastels at all? Let me know. This to me is the most spring palette. Like if I could think in my mind of a spring palette, this would be it. And this is the Nomad Fetes de Provence palette. I remember when they first showed this color story, I gasped. I thought it was the most beautiful springtime color story. I believe this was this last year or the year before? I want to say last year. Gosh, it feels like so much longer ago that this came out. But this, to me, is such a beautiful spring palette. One of my favorite color stories that Nomad has ever done. Of course, we have the purple and cool tone side here We have pinks and peaches here. And then we have this gorgeous column of yellows, which I think is so fun. The shimmers in this, I will say some of them are a little bit more on the softer side, a little bit more satiny, and then some are more standard metallics. They do tend to like switch up their shimmer formulas from palette to palette. So if you are looking for more of like a soft shimmer on the lid, this would be a really good one for you. It's very matte heavy, which I love. And of course you can stick to columns to create looks or mix and match. I had a really good experience with this palette. I really like the shade Fleur de Mimosa. It is a duochrome that's like a yellow with a bluish green reflect. But again, it's a little bit more on the softer side. Still really pretty though. And a really, like, look how pretty that is. Love that. Nomad is a destination-based indie brand, and this one is Fetes de Provence in France. That's where this was taking place, and I think it matches the cover perfectly. This was a very well done palette. A little bit, again, more grungy spring is the Cosmic Brushes Muse palette. This is my favorite palette from the brand because I feel that it's a neutral palette with a twist. You can create neutral looks, you can create colorful looks, but I definitely think that this is very grungy spring. It even could, I'm probably gonna put this in my fall palettes video as well because it also gives me fall, right? The Cosmic Brushes formula is great. The mattes are very, very easy to use, very pigmented, but not to the point where they're hard to work with. And something that I don't think people talk about enough is the Cosmic Brushes shimmer formula. It is my favorite type of formula where it is smooth yet sparkly, just ultra glidey, but gives that beautiful impact without being chunky or like enhancing texture on the lid. And this one is beautiful. This came in very high in my 2023 palette ranking. So yeah, this is their most neutral palette that they have. They're definitely known more for their colorful color stories, which I can get down with every once in a while. But this I feel like is a good one to pack if you want options for neutral looks or colorful looks. But yeah, it was giving me like grungy spring. And then honestly, my last three palettes are all from Blend Bunny because these three, like, I can't help but think of spring when I look at these palettes. So we have the Dollhouse palette, wonderful neutral palette. And when Blend Bunny first came out with this palette, they said it's the colorful palette for the neutral lover and the neutral palette for the colorful lover, which I can absolutely see. This palette has many more shimmers than usual. They have a row down here and a row up here. I love that this row is light shimmers and down here we have dark shimmers. So I feel that you can create several different looks. And Blend Bunny sets up their palettes in a column gradient where most of the time they do, not always, where you can create looks based on the columns or of course mix and match. Blend Bunny's matte formula is my favorite matte formula in my collection. I feel that they're perfect. Like you can work with them so easily. They're easy to blend. They're just perfect, okay? And their shimmers are pretty. They're not my favorite, but they're very pretty, a little bit more on the sparkly side, just gorgeous. So I had to include the Dollhouse. And then I have two more palettes from the brand that definitely incorporate pastels. We have this Sugar and Grunge palette, which has recently been discontinued, unfortunately. But this, like even this, the cover with the beautiful flowers on it reminds me of spring. And then here we have this, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So again, we have the columns, except the shimmers are offset a little bit from the corresponding columns, but I know a lot of people didn't love that, but I don't have a problem with it at all. Like I don't find it hard to put them together like where they would be, if that makes sense. And I love that we have this row of pastels, but then we have a mid-tone and a deep row where you can choose to just make it light and bright, or you can deepen it up. Again, formula-wise, it's the good Blend Bunny formula that I love. And these pastels are pastel, but a couple of them are even like more neon leaning pastels, which I think is a little bit more unique. If you have it, pull it out. And then the last palette I want to talk about is the Blend Bunny Sickly Sweet palette. This was their Halloween launch last year, but I still think it's very spring in my opinion. This one is heavily pastel, but I do like how there are deeper tones and mid-tones mixed in there so that you can create deeper looks if you want to deepen it up. I think this is a very well done pastel palette. It's probably my favorite pastel palette in my collection. Quality wise, wonderful. I find myself reaching into this a lot. Again, if I want to pop a pastel in my inner corner, if I want to use it to blend out something, I'm reaching for this one because there's several different pastel options in here. The shimmers are really pretty, really sparkly, really smooth, and we have a couple of deepening up shades, like I said. So love this pastel palette, and even though it was a Halloween launch, it still reminds me of spring. All right, and that is it for this spring palette video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know down below in the comments what your favorite palettes are for spring, or what palettes remind you of spring in your collection. Let me know your thoughts about any of these palettes. Do you have them? Do you want them? Let me know, because I love hearing from you. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out a lot when you do that. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing before you leave. I do upload videos weekly, and I'd love to see you back on my channel again. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.